Hey, I'm Leslie Robinson, Director of Case Valley. I'm so happy to intro this panel with Grasshopper co-founders. We have Alexa Curtis and Heather Miller. And a fun story is actually I introduced these two co-founders. And so it's a really special moment to have them share the stage to tell you more about mentorship and especially the platform that they provide that's called Grasshopper, which is a career roadmap. So with that, I will let these ladies take it away. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. So if you see us looking down, it's because the monitor is down here, so it's slightly awkward, but we'll do our best to address you all. Want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you guys so much for coming. I know we only have 30 minutes, so if there's anyone that has a question during this, just pop your hand up if we don't have time for a full Q&A at the end. But I will introduce Grasshopper, and then we have a PowerPoint for you guys on mentorship. So just some basic background on me. Prior to Grasshopper, I started a blog back in 2011 called Life in the Fashion Lane when I was 12. From a super small town, no money, no connections, and built it out into this full lifestyle platform that ended up focusing more on entrepreneurship and had a successful podcast that I then cold pitched to Disney and landed a show on Disney called Fearless Every Day with Alexa Curtis. And I was the host of that show for about 2 years in LA, and then started a college summit program and left Disney and then moved to Austin and did a UT talk, I think a year and a half ago now with Leslie for Kendra Scott, and she was like, you should reach out to Heather Miller. And I sent her a LinkedIn message, and now Grasshopper is my new baby with her. So, yeah.
So I'm Heather Miller, founder of Grasshopper. So grateful to Leslie for connected us. Alexa, I always say, like, if you just kind of like put things out in the world, like what you were wishing for, which was a co-founder, it came our way. So grateful to have found Alexa. My background, so grew up in Toronto, was a professional ballet dancer. Got kind of sick of ballet when I was in my, let's say, early 20s, moved to hip hop and toured with different artists, lived on a bus for years and years, touring with like LL Cool J, Justin Timberlake, then went to law school, decided not to pursue law after that, went to design school, decided not to, well, I pursued design for a little while, and then ended up in consulting at a firm called McKinsey & Company. At McKinsey, did everything from like external relations, communications to talent acquisition, where I really focused on supporting our women, what it's like to retain, support women. I now do a little consulting for them in our DE&I space. But Grasshopper was really born out of my work at McKinsey and finally finding a place where I found, I'm sorry, I keep touching this mic, not used to it being here, but finally found mentorship for the first time, and did a lot of work and research in mentorship, and kind of thought, like, I'm doing all this work for this corporate entity that has all these resources. Wouldn't it be nice if I could spread the love and give resources to every woman so that they could have mentorship in their back pockets? So that's sort of like the genesis story of Grasshopper. We now have grown it, so we focus on career road mapping for women, and Alexa's actually going to tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and even when I was at Disney, I never really found there was any mentorship. That was really my first kind of company I had ever worked for. And so it was really interesting to hear that also at McKinsey, she also struggled to have mentorship. So there's obviously a pattern that a lot of these major corporations, and especially women, right? You go in and they're not like, here's all your friends, this is everything you do. It's kind of just to figure it out on your own. So what's really unique about Grasshopper is that we don't necessarily push the word mentorship too much because we're so much more than a mentorship company, but we really use mentorship as a vehicle for what we offer, which is memberships starting in Austin, which is where we officially launched in September of last year. And then we also have a virtual membership. And on top of that, we also have a product called the Be Fearless Summit, which is initially what I had started prior to Grasshopper. And so we work with colleges, and we also go into different companies and whatnot, and talk about mentorship and women empowerment and community. So yeah, the Instagram's at Grasshopher, and it's grasshopher.com. So there's definitely a lot on there that goes more into what we're about to.
Yeah. Okay, so today we're talking about mentorship and growing our support systems. And the first thing we have on here is that relationships matter. There's sort of like this buzzword in the corporate world, which is like being transactional. Like, don't be transactional. You have to remember that every time you meet someone, every moment is an opportunity for connection. And so, you know, really connecting with your colleagues inside and outside the workplace is really important. Personal and professional development are connected. I'll just use myself as an example. I was as a dancer, like really into MTV and BET back in the day, and you know, music videos, and that actually, you know, because I was so passionate about that from like a personal standpoint, like really sort of helped me transition my love and my passion into my career. So, you know, through hip hop and then actually design, there was a huge connection there between, you know, set design and the costumes and everything that went into the production. So all this to say is it's really important to transition your personal passions into the professional world, and to remember that those are connected. So you don't feel this like disconnect of like, this is who I am as a person during the day, and then this is who I am at work, and they have to be separate. It's really important to sort of integrate things, and that actually will help with your relationships. If your colleagues know you as a full person, they're more likely to reach out to you to connect for future projects. You know, they know what your passions are, they know what your goals are, and can be mentors and peer mentors on that. Yeah, that's good. Connections can help you secure future jobs. So again, not being transactional, really connecting with the people that you work with. So you can call them up. I mean, we do that all the time. Like we'll be like, hey, we have this event coming up. I can think of the perfect speaker for that, and it's usually somebody who's in our network, and then we can give that person an opportunity to be in front of an audience. Shared skills and experience empower all parties involved. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory, I think. Yeah.
So mentorship, there's so many ways, obviously, and I bet you guys might even have some questions on that, can enrich your network. Because we both didn't have that, we have kind of found that through Grasshopper, a lot of these speakers that we've had, as well as our members, have either gotten mentorship throughout their events that they come to in Austin or virtually, or even just the community that we've built with Grasshopper, which is pretty special, that friendship element. So mentorship, what I would say first about mentorship that I think a lot of people don't realize is mentorship is not therapy. So this is a business relationship, and a lot of young people, you know, right out of college, they're going to DMing massive CEOs on Instagram or LinkedIn. I mean, I've gotten tons of cold emails just simply asking for me to mentor someone, and it's a really juvenile way to do it because, again, it's a business relationship and it needs to be even. So as much as this person needs to enrich your life, you also need to equally enrich it too, their life. And also at Grasshopper and my prior company, building your own personal brand is such a huge target for us. So we really focus on whatever job, internship, person you want to intern for or work for. When you go and apply for that job or when you go to that mentor, always view yourself as a brand. So when you're sending a DM to, I don't know, Sarah Blakely, right? Hey, will you be my mentor? Do you think that Spanx would just DM people like, hey, do you want free product? Hey, do you want to be our mentors or our ambassadors? No. And so model and kind of idolize the people that you want to mentor you as well as those brands that do that in a really seamless and efficient way while also building your own personal brand. That doesn't mean you need millions of Instagram followers, but really go to the table equally with something when it comes to mentorship.
I'll play like a little bit of a devil's advocate to that because I do think that there's something about like reaching out to somebody that you really idolize. I think, and we're going to talk about this, I think it's more of like you've got to build up to the question of mentorship, like build that relationship, and then and actually we were talking about this a little bit last night at the pre-dinner, like you build the relationship and then the mentorship kind of comes organically. You don't necessarily, you wouldn't want to sort of ask in advance, like, will you be my mentor out of the cold? Although people may say yes. I say yes all the time to people who connect with me on LinkedIn.
Sure.
So, I mean, whatever way, I would say kudos to you. Whatever way you're going to go about doing it, like if you do it, kudos to you.
And if you're, ballsy and you write the DM or you write the email, that's great. But I also think knowing that there needs to be some type of curriculum. You mentioned something I think last night or the other day was something we were doing. If it really isn't set up in that proper way, I find it ends up just being you're sending emails to this person, they're not replying. You're like, you're my mentor and you're not replying. But this person, so that initial building blocks, those need to really start early on so that there is that kind of once a week phone call or once a month. And again, it's even. That's where you guys are both getting experience.
That's a really good point. I don't think we're sort of like talking about a curriculum here, but I think it's really important to set up like a schedule for you and your mentor, and you build that. Don't wait for them to do that. So whether it's like monthly check-in, a phone call, or just an email if they're a busy person, like make sure you sort of have that schedule in your back pocket and actually share it with them as well, so they know like you're responsible, like you're holding yourself accountable to the relationship. All right, so mentors versus sponsors. I think there's an important distinction here, and you were just kind of talking about coaches versus mentorship, so I won't really get into that other than like mentors are not necessarily your therapist, nor are coaches. Coaches are usually, the difference between mentors and coaches are usually certified. Like they've gone through a training, a certain number of hours, and they are actually fabulous in that they usually, if you employ one, like come to the table with a curriculum and they'll get you through that curriculum. There might be homework. There's a lot of like soul searching and self-searching and professional development work. But mentors are a little bit different. So mentors, I say, are sort of like your cheerleaders. They're an experienced advisor. They can be role models. But I find that the relationship is like a little bit more private. It's kind of like between two people. You're connecting with them, and they're kind of a sounding board, and it sort of stops there, whereas sponsorships I find are very public. Like a sponsor is responsible for putting themselves on the line to get you out there and give you opportunities. So you may have like someone at work who would say, hey, like I'm supposed to be in this really important meeting and do a presentation. Would you like to come on board and help me with that? So they're that extra sort of lift, and they're really shopping you around through their network to kind of get you out there. So there is a little bit of a distinction. I think it's really important to have both. So think about that, because you could develop a mentorship relationship and it could then develop into sponsorship. So just wanted to give you that sort of distinction there.
How do you find a mentor to build a support system? Oh my gosh, there's so many ways to do it. Raise the hands. I mean, has anyone DM'd someone, LinkedIn messaged someone, and gone down the path of trying to find a mentor? Okay, good for you guys. And how, you can say it, I mean, out loud, how have some of the rest of you found mentors? Is it through your workplace? Is it through your universities? Okay, and have those relationships been beneficial for you? Yeah, that's awesome, because I also find that with mentorship, a lot of people go in sometimes having an unrealistic expectation, and it really is quite similar to finding a therapist. This person might not vibe with you, and you might not vibe with them, so instead of just letting the relationship go cold, you can simply say, is there anyone else you can introduce me to? Or reach out in a few months. Maybe it's been 3 months and you've started some type of side hustle and that's this person's niche. That's what they focus on. So I think that's also a really important way to go about mentorship. Let's see, don't send an email asking for a mentor right off the bat. And I really think that's just coming from both sides, like the corporate side, but also the influencer in front of the camera side. Again, you are a brand. So it's the same way that you're not going to necessarily call up the Kendra Scott Institute and ask them to speak on Saturday. You might find the head of marketing or write an email, introduce yourself on LinkedIn, and really nurture those relationships, and also feel totally fine to walk away if it's not right. Your mentor may be way more excited about you than you are to them, and that's just life. And it's a business transaction. This person doesn't need to be your best friend, but you want to feel very supportive in what you're doing.
Where can I find a mentor? So LinkedIn, we're talking about here. Look within your personal network, and LinkedIn is one of those ways of searching your personal network. It can also be friends of friends. It can be, colleagues of friends.
Grasshopper.
Or Grasshopper. Yep. We're happy to help you find someone. Utilize your social media, local interest groups. There's tons of women's groups within Austin, within every city. So really look around and find which one is right for you. A lot of them have kind of some have like a volunteering bent, some are more social impact, some are more like professional development based. Lots of options. So do your research. LinkedIn Score, which I actually hadn't really, I'm not too familiar with it, but I did look it up. It is somewhere just to find mentors, and that is the purpose of it. Just like I do find LinkedIn is like the purpose of LinkedIn is to really connect. So you don't really need to feel shy about that outreach. Like that's what it's for. Mm-hmm. Expand your horizons, look into adjacent industries and other things that you're interested in. So if you feel like, you can be happy where you are in your industry, in your company, but sort of looking forward, like where do you want to be in several years? Reach out to folks who have roles that interest you. I am constantly having like coffee chats and I call them like exploratory chats. I mean, if anything, if you don't end up going down that path, if anything, you've made like a new friend, a new connection. You've grown. You're learning. So, just reaching out and learning about people's roles, their jobs, their interests.
How do you network online? Oh gosh, these are all of my tips from an old media kit that I had, so that's funny to see them in here again. So I have, like I said, prior to Grasshopper, with the Disney background and the podcasting, a lot of what I did was constantly reaching out, finding brands to work with, people to be on the podcast. And I have, over the years, I've cultivated an insane roster for someone who literally came from nothing, of like celebrities and thought leaders who I simply have connected with through cold emailing or cold calling.
Yeah, and showing this is up. True, I can attest.
Yeah, showing up at the Hello Sunshine office in Santa Monica, Reese Witherspoon's production company, and trying to get Sarah Hardin to give me a TV show, which she said no to. However, she now is a Grasshopper speaker, so that's kind of the people that you guys have access to if Grasshopper piques your interest. But a very similar feedback that I've heard from them is, if you're sending a DM, a lot of these major people, they read the DMs and whatnot, and then they're like, it's super great if you send, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'd love to follow up with you via email. What's your email? And then proceed the conversation to there. I frequently, honestly, don't even look at my DMs. It's hard to have Grasshopper in my own one at this point. And so I find that sometimes I'll go through and I'm like, oh, no, I didn't see that. So you have to think, if you're looking for a high-powered individual to be your mentor, that's just another task for them. So I always like the idea of doing that DM to email. The following up part is crucial. I mean, we speak to so many young people, young professionals weekly, and so many people are like, oh, so-and-so didn't respond to my job inquiry or whatnot. And we're like, did you follow up? Well, no, I'm scared. I have like no fear of rejection. It's almost like there's something wrong with me. So I don't understand why you wouldn't follow up. Quite frankly, all of the emails a lot of times go to spam. So if you can change your mindset to always view yourself as the 1%, you don't want to follow up. Okay, 99.99% of people aren't following up and they're not getting the job, but 1% of people becomes an Elon Musk or a Sarah Blakely. I love Sarah Blakely, which is why I say her name quite often. And so think in that mindset, almost your normal DNA pattern of like that fear of rejection. Start getting yourself comfortable with doing the opposite of that. And I think you'd be shocked at what the results are and how people are not replying because they're probably not getting your emails. Yeah.
We're speeding through because we want to get to a Q&A here. How much time do we have left? 5 minutes?
5 minutes. Okay.
Do you want to... I'll touch on this really quickly. How to be a good mentee. Just like Alexa said, it's a two-way relationship. Remember that like the mentorship is something, although we would love to change this and have tried to change this culture at Grasshopper, but like mentorship is free. You're usually not paying that person. So remember, like be respectful of their time. Offer to give something back. Like, do they need help with a project they're working on? Offer to do something for them in return. Be present, maintain confidentiality. Ask for feedback. Ask if there's like anything else you should be doing at work or, feedback is great. I know it's sometimes hard to take, but it's always very useful. All right. Just wanted to quickly mention, this evening at about 5:30, we're having a little bit of mentorship on the go in the front. And so we're bringing along a couple of mentors. QR code here to check out their bios. Alyssa Shapiro is the CEO of Commission Co., which is a real estate social media platform. Meredith Wells is compliance officer, used to be a lawyer, transitioned to corporate compliance. Maggie Brown is the CEO of a pickleball product company. Recess. Yeah. And Malia Khan is actually one of our third-year mentors and a KPMG offeree. So we're all going to be out there to help you practice your networking. And we'll pass these out. We've got a couple of tips and tricks for networking. So I'll leave those up while we do a Q&A. Anything anything that we said that you have questions on? Anything we can answer regarding your experiences with mentorship? Yeah.
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah.
Who are your mentors?
There's one in the room.
Yeah. Leslie, my friend Jeannie in the back here, I was introduced to her from a good friend of mine, Dylan. Jeannie is like amazing, you guys. She's sitting literally right back here. I'm putting you on the spot. She has been incredible in my life. Heather, honestly, is one of my mentors, best friends, and also co-founder. Andy Pudicombe, who's the CEO, founder of Headspace. Allison Kay, who's at Scooter Braun Project. She's been really awesome for a lot of career things. And I've also found it really beneficial I'm very OCD about my asks. Like I will never just call up someone and say, can you post this on Instagram? Or we're doing this, it's really cool, like we want your money. I'm super OCD about the way that I go about it, and I think that's why a lot of my relationships have been successful with mentorship, is because I'm not like, hey, this is what we're doing, like here, here, here. I'm very much like, I have that one ask a year and I'll ask someone really important that question.
I do not have as many high-profile mentors. Mine have really come from the corporate space. So like growing up in professional ballet, there was none of that. It was a very sort of demanding lifestyle, not a lot of mentorship and support. We all lived away from home from the age of 8, and so like had to learn how to be street smart and gritty, but didn't really have mentors in that space. And then fast forward to say law school, very male-driven industry. Not a lot of mentorship there. It wasn't until I moved to consulting that it was really baked into the corporate culture. And so my mentors really come from, I would say, McKinsey and other sort of entities like McKinsey, because that's sort of like we all have this like shared language of mentorship and support and how to kind of raise people up. So yeah.
2 more quick questions. You first, and then you. We'll be here too after for a bit.
Yeah.
If you guys wanna.
So I guess my question is, you talk about like seeking out a mentor. How do you know when you're kind of in a space to be a mentor, and how can you like provide that service to someone else? Because maybe someone is not as bold to say, hey, can you be my mentor? But like, how do you know when you're ready to actually be a mentor yourself?
I get a lot of messages on the Grasshopper Instagram from people asking to be a Grasshopper mentor, and we really don't have that type of program set up at this point because, like I said, we've kind of steered away from that one-on-one mentorship coaching. But I respect those messages, so I would say that based on what I find that these women DM us, finding groups like Grasshopper and DMing, emailing them, do you guys have a mentorship program? Is there even a particular person who you think needs mentorship? Calling some small businesses in your area and seeing if you can start it very small. And then from there, it's very much word of mouth. So you might get a small startup, right, that has an intern that really needs a mentor like you. And then she has 8 other friends who are now going to work at McKinsey, and it's kind of a starting point.
But I think also like your question was around like that personal journey for you, like when do you know that you can transition into mentorship? And I think I think a lot of people are natural mentors. I mean, we talk a lot at Grasshopper about peer mentorship, and I'm sure even in high school, like many of us were part of like peer groups and peer mentoring. So I think it can be all about sort of. Sorry, I got distracted a little bit. Totally fine. But I do think it's, practicing your skills. And then I think you'll get to a point in your career where organically, like people are coming to you for advice, and then you'll find yourself on the other side of that table.
I'd also chime in and say one more thing that I thought of, and I think you maybe asked that question because perhaps, which I think we all have, you have a little bit of imposter syndrome. But I think by asking that question, it shows you're ready to be a mentor.
Yeah.
You just have to really find it in yourself. I'm ready to like tell someone how I've done this in my life. I don't know you're ever ready to be a mentor. It's like, are you ever ready to be a wife or a mom or a friend?
Kids, no.
You just do it. So
yeah.
I think I had said we have to end it now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you all, and we'll be here for a little while, and then also, as I said, at 5:30 to 7,
Yeah.
we'll be outside with our Grasshopper mentorship on the go. So come visit us.
This is not long enough.